Hey, welcome to Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf. This is brought to you by Adventure CEO. Got a question for you today. How would you like to avoid making the cell phone company punchline mistake? You really need to do this as an entrepreneur. This is something you need to avoid. It happens all too often. What does that mean? Consider this. A lot of stand-up comedians use cell phone providers as a punchline because their customer service is notoriously bad. Before that, it was cable companies. You needed to make a change, needed to get in touch with them. And to this day, there's some companies that will say, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, we'll send you need to have someone come out to take care of something at your house." And it's like, "Yeah, no problem. Be there from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on this day, and somebody will show up." Can you not schedule your activities with your customers any better than a 13-hour window? I'm not asking about service pros. I'm asking about you within your company. As a customer, would you consider that acceptable from one of your service providers or someone that a supplier to your company? If they said, "Yeah, you know what? On this day or in this week, somewhere between 8 a.m. on Monday and 6 p.m. on Friday, we'll get it delivered to you." Or even just within a day, within a 13-hour window, where you have to have people available within a 13-hour window for whenever what they're shipping to you arrives, or whenever your IT people, say if you have an IT problem, your IT people are going to arrive. And I'm not taking a shot at IT people, just using it as an example of a service. Would you accept that? Would you find that acceptable to provide to your customers when they're asking you for something, or they've got a question or need help with your customer service? So right now, customer service is a huge opportunity. There's a lot of chaos in the marketplace, and typically what happens in moments like this, it's in this part of the cycle, right? We're in another business cycle, possibly heading into a recession with all of the increases in inflation. The costs are about to spike again because of what's happening with global issues. That creates an opportunity for customer service because customer service is one of the areas that's hard to stay focused on. It's easy to take a pen and line out the cost of what goes into providing good customer service, to line out the cost of what goes into providing good support for your team. So unless you want to become a punchline in somebody's comedy routine, whether it's a professional on stage for a huge broadcast special, or it is some people that on a first name basis at their favorite establishment over adult beverages with friends, do not make the mistake of creating that kind of that dynamic, that kind of experience. So how do you do that? Here's a tip for doing that. And bear with me for a second. We're going to relate this to something that is very important, at least within the United States. On this day in 1789, the first U.S. Congress met. That's both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they declared that the United States of America Constitution was in effect, officially, formally, because now Congress was meeting for the first time. That's 233 years ago. Now, the Constitution itself, the Constitution of the United States of America, is written as a very short document. There's only 4 sheets. Now, there are large sheets, relatively speaking, right? Not like a pocket, paperback, hold it in your pocket type of book size sheets. It was large sheets, but in that day, it was common to post things where they can be read in the public square, right? So there were large sheets, relatively large writing, simple words, no lawyer ease, didn't need a specialist to interpret it. So it was quick to read. Everybody could understand it. Most people could understand the language that was used, whether they read it or had it read to them. And the reason for that was in order for people to be able to practice self-governance, which was a radical idea at that time and still is in most of the world, that it needed to be accessible to the citizens so that they would know what's the mechanism, what are the rules for governing ourselves. So it needed to be straightforward, plain language. And with people that had written it were still available at that time. It was in the language that was used, common language that was used, not formal book writing. And I had a conversation with somebody that working on a project and they wanted to take the language on a marketing piece and make it very formal English, like you would have in English class. But that doesn't work in marketing. Nobody talks like that, for one thing. And in marketing, right, it needs to be a conversation. So don't make it that. So that was the way that they wrote more like people talked, so that it would be understandable. That applies to your business, both inside with your team and then out with your customers as well. Because is it easy for them to understand what you expect? Is it easy for your customers to understand what does it take to get access to customer service, to solve a problem? Are your policies and procedures in-house inside your company easy to read, easy to understand, so that people understand, so that your team knows, okay, here's the framework that's set for how we operate here. If it's a detailed instruction or a process or desk, what's called a desk instruction at some companies, is it simple enough that people can understand what is expected and what are the steps in the process? How do they go through it? What are the exceptions? How do they handle exceptions? That's one of the biggest things that creates problems, is how to handle what is the procedure for handling exceptions to the process, to normal standard operating procedure for both your internal team and for your customers. Yeah, here's a real world example for you. I've got two organizations that are suppliers, and one made a change in something they're doing. So part of what they're doing for us, we need to shift to another company. Because what they're doing doesn't meet our need. We still have other things that we're doing. So it's just a piece of what we're doing. And we're going to do something, move that over to another company that we're working with. Well, the company that we're moving things to, so imagine this, in 3 days, I spent more than 2 hours on hold, never talking to a live person, not all at the same time, but at three, it's like called, okay, I'll call different times during business hours, because it's always an on hold message. And it talks about how much they care. And it's a loop of about a 15-30 second message. How much they care. We'll be right with you. Oh, please go to our website, call, use our chat. Well, go into their chat multiple times across those days. The chat utility is automated, right? It's an artificial intelligence function. And all it does is it collects data and then says, oh, sorry, none of our people are available to talk with you due to high volume. Try again later. So try again later. So multiple times on that, can't get through to talk to anybody to resolve a question. So they have a support email. I go, well, use our support email, right? So I've used their phone, used their chat function. So they're also saying, well, email us at support, because we'll respond back to that. So multiple emails across 3 days, only get automated responses that say, we got it. Here's your ticket number. We're looking at it, but there's no one to talk to about the ticket number. Get an automated response back. I finally get 2 emails back that are automated in the way, looking at the way they're written and structured. You can recognize those, right? When one of the AI bots sends you something. So it's kind of an auto responder sent back that directed me to do stuff that said, well, it's this other company's fault that we can't talk, that you're experiencing this problem. They can't resolve it and they have really nothing to do with it. And I never raised that issue. So that's one email, total response, totally unrelated. It's automated, totally unrelated. And another response told me to do something that I had already done. And it's like, well, we've already covered that. That's why we're talking, because that didn't move forward the way that the procedure they had described, which was a bit opaque, which is just an MBA length word for saying kind of hard to understand. It was convoluted. It wasn't straightforward. It wasn't written in simple language like people normally talk. You need a lawyer to guide you through the interpretation of what they're writing on some of their instructions on how to access and work with their customer service. So there it is. 72 hours. They didn't live up to a single commitment that they made on. Oh yeah, we're gonna. We'll be talking with you daily as part of this. This is the initial where we started out, right? Initially, oh, this is great that we're doing this. We really appreciate it. We value your business. We're gonna have one of our customer service people talking with you on a daily basis as we get this new thing started working together. Never delivered on it. And in fact, they didn't deliver on anything and left me hanging on the phone for hours without ever responding, multiple emails without responding. And then the responses I did get were form letters, basically, that had nothing to do with what we were trying to resolve. How crazy is that? And I go back to the other company. Their customer service is a little bit better, but after several hours of working with them, but that was just contained in one day. So after several hours working with them, you're just like, we can't really do anything, right? They had someone that were working on three questions that needed to resolve. We started working on the first one, and he said, "Well, wait, we'll definitely address these other two. We need to do this first." Did that. Took a half hour to do that, and we got to the other two and gone, "Yeah, we can't address." The person that was helping me said, "I can't help you with that. I don't have the authority." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that up front?" But then the problem became there's no one to talk to that has authority. Sorry, we're just so busy. We don't have anybody, and they disconnected me. Don't you just love when they do that? When that happens, and I was like, all right, fine, great opportunity to talk about customer experience and about team member experience too. Because part of the discussion on the Great Resignation and the war on talent, keeping the people that you want to work for you, attracting the people, the talent, being able to recruit the talent that you need to scale up your business and seize the opportunities that you see for growing your business, for serving your customers more effectively. To be able to attract and keep those people on your team, the experience they have as employees is part of that. And if this, so just take the customer service punchline that cell phone companies and cable companies have been at times. That creates frustration inside too. Top performers, high performers, they don't want to work in those kinds of environments where they can't help. They're getting barraged with customer complaints. They can't help customers. The customer's frustrated. They're frustrated. That sets the stage for losing top talent. Why? Because your best performers are the ones that have the most options, right? They have the most opportunities in the marketplace. You'll tend to lose them first. When you're starting to have that's actually a leading indicator. So here's a bonus tip, and I'll wrap up for today. A leading indicator that you're in trouble is when you start seeing people you'd really like to have stay leave. That means there's a problem with your work experience, with how you're running things internally, likely in your leadership team, and how you are coaching as the owner of the business, how you are coaching that leadership team. Checking to make sure I covered everything that I made notes on and did. Believe you with that. So don't become the cell phone punchline. Pay attention to customer service when you're scaling. Make sure that you maintain a focus on customer experience, customer service, and the experience that your customers have when they're accessing your customer service avenues, and also on internally with your team, the experience they're having in their day-to-day work. So thanks for being part of the conversation here, Wolf Watch. It's always great to talk with you. And this is live and interactive, 21st Century TV. So I look forward to seeing you on the trail.